everybody. Welcome to Camel City Chat. I'm your host, John McPherson, and I am here with my friend Phillip Johnson Jr. Phillip is the president of the Winston-Salem Regional Association of Realtors for 2021, and he's our guest this week. We're going to be back every Wednesday doing more interviews, telling you more about what's going on in the Camel City. And I'm just really happy to have Phillip here. The only problem is that we're pretty good friends, and so I hope that I don't forget to ask a great question, and I hope that he doesn't embarrass me with stories that never happened. With that, good morning, Phillip.
Good morning, John.
How
Excited
you
to
doing,
be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We've talked about having you on, and I really wanted to wait until you were president of the association so that your members could learn more about you and all of the things that make you a great friend and an awesome guy.
Well, just following after you.
Yeah. It's been an interesting first few weeks as president of the association, hasn't it?
I'd say it's been as interesting for me as it was for you in 2020.
Yes, right. I think mine was all over a 12-month period. Yours has been compressed into the first 15 days of January. So with that, let's start. I think you know exactly what my first question is going to be, and that is, Phillip, where are you from, and how long have you been in Winston-Salem?
Okay, well, I'm from Winston-Salem, and so I was born in '75, so I've been here, and actually my family's been involved in real estate. I'm the fourth generation owner of my company.
All right, so I have to talk about your parents. Your parents are divorced. The only reason why I talk about this is because I used to work for your mother.
I know.
Yeah.
K&S Newsstand.
Right, so I interviewed your mom on how to fit 12 hours or 10 hours?
How to fit 10 hours into an 8-hour
10 hours
day.
into an 8-hour day. Have a copy of the book, showed it to you. You couldn't believe that I actually had it.
Yep.
So Kay Johnson's your mom. And then she had a company called Johnson West.
Talent agency.
Talent agency, and I was one of their talent and actually ended up on a billboard in California for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I made like $4.
Were you with Joe Camel on that back in the day?
No. What about, and then your dad, I mean, this is where you are now. So your dad and then his dad, and I mean, when did T.E. Johnson and Sons start?
We were founded in 1928,
Right.
but the family was doing real estate for years before that.
Correct. And so T.E. Johnson and Sons was founded, and then when did your dad start working there?
I don't know his exact
We're not going
year.
to tell. Yeah, we better not. We don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah,
with him.
he is Realtors Emeritus, so he's got more than 40 years in the industry, and
That's
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and a great guy, great guy. So, all right, so you've lived here all your life. Then the next question I'm going to ask you, of course, is, what's your favorite place to eat? And I should say, with you also, because you and I are bourbon connoisseurs, maybe what's your favorite place to drink? But you tell me.
You know, Adam Andrews, that's the
Trophy room.
Great
Yep.
place to have a drink.
Yep.
Was there recently for New Year's as a small group of two.
Right.
But you know, obviously with COVID, was limiting where we're going out.
Right.
Delicios in Brookstown Avenue. Best meatloaf I've ever had.
Great place. And there's so many great places. And I know, I mean, and it's kind of like I think what I should ask is the question is, where's the last place you went out to dinner? Because that's the mayor's question, you know, and that's how he answers. Well, I can tell you the last place I went to dinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, Adam Andrews, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you one of the, I know another place that you love is Incendiary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cugino Forno Pizza.
Cugino Forno.
Amazing.
Amazing. Then you think there's Mission Pizza. Then you've got, you know, Small Batch. And did you see Broad Branch now has a
distillery
bourbon?
opening up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bourbon.
Well,
and so
yeah, it's actually releasing, I think, next week.
It released on Tuesday. It's sold out. I tried to buy a bottle. I was going to surprise you with one, and I'm out.
All right.
Yeah, but we'll find something else. But yeah, so Broad Branch, and then, I mean, it's just, Winston-Salem is so, and you're one of the people that I can talk to this about, is, you know, I remember, and I've probably told this 3 or 4 times, when we used to deliver magazines downtown, we went to Rainbow News, which was over on...
Brookstown.
No, which was over behind Schober's. It used to be there in that house.
Then it moved to.
Then it moved to the White House, and then over to...
Yeah.
Right, because the White House is now some charcuterie or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, so right across from Augsburg. But then, so we delivered there. We delivered to the Reynolds building, and we delivered to the adult store right next to Camel City Pawn Shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. And you left downtown Winston at 3:30.
Well, rec billiards was still there.
Okay.
And so I do remember going to rec billiards when I was a teenager after 5 o'clock. And
To
that
play
was about
pool.
to play pool.
Right.
Because it wasn't a full bar and
Right.
everything back then. And that was literally the only thing downtown after 6 o'clock at night.
And what about, so your T.E. Johnson & Sons, where I remember them being, is on 3rd Street, which is now the hotel.
Correct.
So were they somewhere else before then?
Actually, we were not far from the Woolworths building on Trade Street originally. Moved into the building on 3rd Street, I believe in 57, stayed there 57 years, and then moved to our new location at 920 West 5th Street
Right.
5 years ago.
Right. And so when basically what happened is Tom, your uncle, and Phil Sr., your dad, and you were working out of the 3rd Street, and then you negotiated selling it to them, and then you found this place, and then also bought your dad and your uncle out. And I can tell you, I talked to your dad, I guess it was, a week and a half ago, and just so proud of you and who you have become is all he talked about you, and what you've really grabbed it by the horns, and we'll talk more about what you're doing and things like that. But it just it's so cool when you talk to your friend's dad, and we just just revel in what you're doing and how you're doing it. I mean, you got a great staff. You've added people.
Yeah.
During COVID, you've added employees.
Yeah.
And so that's other stuff to hear. So let's get the last thing, which is question number 3 of the first 3 is, what's your favorite thing to do in and around Winston-Salem?
Honestly, before COVID, I enjoy walking from my house down on Marshall Street.
Right.
Go over, meet somebody over at Incendiary, have some pizza, and just hang out and be social and interact with friends.
It is interesting because I know where you live, and I mean, you start up the hill. The first place that you got to go by is Delicio's. You got to go by the bakery. You got to go by
Camino. I've got to go by Willow's Bistro.
Willow's. What's the M one that I always that's there in the Brookstown?
Oh, Meridian.
Meridian.
Yeah.
Just went out there a few days ago. I mean, it's just good food.
It's a great place to be.
Yeah, and I know that that has been something that has been quite interesting. Of course, you and I have done some things together.
Sure.
You're, by the time this airs, you're going to have been inaugurated as the 103rd, isn't it? Lou was 100.
Yeah, 104th.
104th president of this, which is kind of interesting because you will be the second Phillip Johnson to serve as president.
Correct.
And who is inaugurating you?
My father is going to actually swear me in.
Yeah. And I think the coolest thing that we've seen in a while was when your dad got up and spoke on your behalf as to nominate you, in a sense, to be
Yes.
voted on for president-elect. And
Meant a lot to me.
yeah, and it meant a lot to him too.
Yeah.
So, but what I will say is, let's get into the meat of things.
Sure.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world today. And,
Really?
And,
Just
yeah,
a few
yeah, I know.
challenges.
And so you work in an industry that has 3 different tiers to it, let's say.
Yep.
There's residential, which is me, commercial, which would be, a whole bunch of people we know, and then there's property management, you.
Correct.
I would never do your job,
And I would never do yours.
and we've agreed on that because I just don't understand how you do it, and you don't understand how I do mine. You represent an individual who owns a property.
Correct.
And then you solicit that individual's properties for renters, and then those renters come in.
Correct.
They pay rent, that's good. They don't pay rent, they get evicted.
In most circumstances, yes.
Pre-COVID.
Even then, we always want to try to work with people as best we can.
Correct. And I've sat in the office and I've watched you work with people, and I know that you're a good person. What's going on now? Because as a realtor, I know that PMD, which is Property Management Division, is struggling. And you're struggling in the sense of you have so much business out there of people wanting to rent, et cetera, and stuff like that. But the elephant in the room is you have individuals you represent that aren't getting paid rent right now, and they want to find someone to rent their property, but there's someone in there that is unable to pay. So how are we remedying that, and what are you doing to work with it?
Well, one of the biggest things we've been doing recently is the HOPE program that North Carolina put out, putting tenants in contact with that and trying to get them to apply for federal assistance. Before that, there was the 211 program that North Carolina set up. Obviously, there's different missions, crisis control, Sunnyside, Salvation Army, anybody that can help them.
Churches are helping out?
Absolutely.
Right.
No one wants to evict people.
Right.
Let's be very clear about that. Evicting someone costs the owner a lot of time, money, and expense. It's not something that landlords or property managers are wanting to do. But under North Carolina law, it is the owner's only legal resource.
Right.
So, and many times we're not evicting people, we're evicting old abandoned personal property.
Right.
So,
and that means the property's vacant, they've left, but you have to still go through a process.
The utilities are turned off,
Right.
but there is maybe a sofa and a mattress in the property, which is more value than we can declare vacant. And so we have to evict, for lack of a better description, trash or abandoned property.
Right. Right. And that's amazing to me because you and I went through a property recently and I'm like, holy cow, what do you, I mean, there was, somebody had left some change on the counter or whatever and you're like, I can't touch any of it. And I go, what do you mean? You go, I have to pay the company to come, they throw it away.
Yes.
Because if you took it, then you have to deduct it or whatever and all this.
Well,
There's a whole bunch of things.
You get into accounting for the value of whatever that sofa is or that TV screen. And
So it's best to say zero.
it is easier to have an independent company haul that out, dispose of it, and pay them than it is to try to sort and administer what the value of some of that thing is. Now, there have been cases where some things have gone to Sunnyside or the rescue mission,
Right.
but no one's going to want an old mattress
Right.
at an abandoned property.
And I'm glad to hear that because there are so many wonderful organizations out there that need that stuff. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he is in Tennessee right now, and it's literally the bank foreclosed on a furniture store, and they left everything there. And I'm like, hey, he goes, John, it's 3 tractor trailer loads of new furniture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you going to do with it? I'm trying to get in touch with Goodwill up there.
Yeah.
I mean, because they can come get it, but, I'm like, well, what about down here? He goes, man, it's 4 hours away from you. You're crazy. But it's just, you're always thinking about trying to help others out.
Absolutely, and you have to also though look at the hard cost of 4 hours of somebody going through and sorting what's good and what's bad, or going through the pantry and donating canned items and what can be thrown away versus, unfortunately, the practical cost of someone being paid just to go through and clear it all out and dispose of it.
Right. So I think one of the things that I'd really like to explain to people, because you are so good at this when it comes to me asking you questions. It's funny, we just really have a symbiotic relationship when it comes to work. It's like, John, what the heck does this mean? And I'm like calling you and like, what the heck does this mean? So I want to walk through something, and so I just bought this great property and I want to rent it. Mm-hmm. What happens next? I contact T.E. Johnson & Sons, go to your website, TEJ Rentals, or reach out to you, whatever.
First thing before you even buy the property, a lot of times we'll come out and walk through the property with you and look at what's going to need to be done to make it rentable.
Right.
I don't want you to go in and buy it at a certain price, not understanding that, hey, you've got $10,000 to $15,000 worth of work to do before you can put it on the market.
That was your softball, by the way. I was hoping you were going to say that. So what happens is Philip and I will have 2 or 3 investor clients, and we'll meet with them at a property, walk through it. I'm the high eye when it comes to the DISC. I'm like, oh man, this room's going to be great, and you're going to be able to do this, and you're going to do this. And Philip's looking and going, John, did you see that rafter needed to be, sistered right there and all this kind of stuff? I'm like, oh yeah, okay, what's that going to cost? But no, what it ends up happening is I'm selling the story, you're selling the facts, and then we go to the client and say, hey, this is what we think it can rent for.
Absolutely.
I'm saying this is what you probably should buy it for, and then
we have the client determine if that works in their matrix of what they're looking for return on investment.
I know a lot of people do that 1%, so I pay $175 for it, I have to rent it for $17.50, but that's not always the same thing.
Well, as long as that's within what the market will allow, that's fine. But the last thing I want you to do is buy a property for $175 thinking you're going to get $17.50, and houses in that neighborhood are going to get rent for $1,400.
Right. And so, a lot of times and I have probably a bad mentality on rental properties. You and I met actually because of rental properties. I was teaching a class at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum.
At
And
the
I said,
annex,
I
yeah.
hate rental properties and blah, blah, blah. And Philip comes up, gives me the card and says, hey man, call me, I'll help you with your rental properties. And you got involved, and then I got out of them. And of course, now is the time to think about getting back into them. But it's a patience waiting now because they're all accelerated in price. But
I think Winston was significantly undervalued compared to a lot of our competitive markets. So
and that's why we have a mutual client that buys a lot in Winston,
Yeah.
because it is. But so I often like hey, you may not make a lot of money on it, but you're still paying down that mortgage,
Well-
and that's also an investment too.
Exactly. One of my dad's properties that he had for years was a townhouse.
Right.
And out of pocket, he had to pay HOA expenses. And every time there was a major repair
Right.
or tenants moved out and had to be turned, that was out of pocket. So every 2 or 3 years, $2,000 to turn that property.
Right.
At the same time, over the 15 years it was rented, he built up that principal for where they were paying down the mortgage and the principal of the property for him. So after 15 years, he had pretty much paid off a townhouse.
And what happens in it, so I buy this property, I send it to you, you negotiate several things for me. We've got a marketing fee, we've got what I owe you to be my property manager and all that stuff. Put a little seed money out there, you guys market it, and then all of a sudden we get a tenant.
Right.
You're negotiating all that stuff, you get them moved in. They stay there 2 or 3 years. Everything's perfect. What I love about you, and I'm sure everybody else does this, but I worked with you, so I love about you. I get this thing at the end of the year. I turn it into my account, and I'm done.
Yeah.
It goes into this pocket, whatever. And then
We're actually recording this the day that I have to get that out to all the other owners. So
Yeah.
we'll get that done.
you'll be done in a few minutes. So you do that every month. I get this great thing, and it's awesome. But let's say it happens, okay? Stabler hadn't paid me rent. So it's, and let's use it's December 31st, and we're not in the pandemic. It's December 31st. Stabler hadn't paid me rent. January 5th, I'm assuming we give them a letter. And then what do? We tell them we got 10 days?
Typically it's 10 days, and then after that, we will obviously try to work with him on
Right.
what his payment options are. But unfortunately, if he's not able to pay, then yes, an eviction would be filed.
Right, and I want people to understand this because this is a really arduous process.
Well-
You go down, you go to the clerk's office, or
We've streamlined it for ours over the years. I mean, obviously,
when I did as an individual, it sucked.
as a property manager, and I'm sure every other property manager out there has a process for doing this. And it's one of those things of numbers. If you manage 800, 2,000 doors, unfortunately, percentage-wise, someone's not going to pay.
Right.
And
Even after you try to work with them.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So then it's the 10 days. Then so after 5 days we give them a letter. 10 days. At 10 days we go down and file. And I want people to understand kind of this timetable because So then when's our court date?
typically within 2 to 3 weeks of when you file.
All right. So if I'm on the 5th, I'm at the 15th. I'm still in February, aren't I?
Correct.
Okay, and then we go down, and then there's certain. I mean, you've got to find out that you got to find out if they're military and they're
Correct.
overseas. And Philip's taught me a lot. Can you tell? And then at that point let's say we get the property, and then we got the 10 days, I guess, to wait or something.
There's a 10-day appeal period.
Right.
And then after that, there would be a writ of possession entered.
Right.
And this is where you're doing it the right way versus what,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Don't go turn the water off to get
Yeah.
them out. You're going to jail.
Yeah, don't take the door off
Right.
or
Ho
any of
ho
these
ho!
other-
Out in the snow. Take the door off. Holy crap! You're an idiot.
Yeah, or any of these other horror stories that you hear about.
Yeah, all this. I mean, this is why you hire a property manager. And so, guess what? It's a cliffhanger. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
All right. So when we come back, show them the front of the office. We'll put a video up. I mean, we'll put a picture up of your office on 5th Street, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up how we evict somebody the proper way.
Sure.
All right. Thanks. We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm your host, John McPherson. I'm here with my friend Phillip Johnson Jr. Phillip is the president of T.E. Johnson & Sons, tejrentals.com online, and also the current president of the Winston-Salem Regional Association of Realtors, installed on January the 19th.
Yes, sir.
All right, so all good. I want to finish this up, and it's not a fun topic for you, and I realize that.
And again, remember, this is the option of last resort. We do not want to evict people.
No, it costs too much money.
Well,
And
yes, it's time, money, and everything.
and that's the business side of it, plus
The human side.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to finish this because, and the reason why I think that I am so into understanding this and our viewers understanding this is, I think people have more of a, it happens so quick. And so I didn't get rent on January 1st. It may be March before I get rent again, or it may be even later based on the whole eviction process.
Correct.
And so if I've got an that's $2,400 that I've lost because someone hasn't paid me. So I'm the one that's in trouble here. You're just providing.
And remember, most landlords are not large corporation. They're mom and pops. They typically own less than 4 properties. I have one woman,
I want you to tell the story. Tell it.
I have one woman who's, I believe, in her 80s. She has 3 investment properties that her husband, who's passed away, set up for her to live on in retirement.
He's a Vietnam vet. Agent Orange got him. I mean,
And unfortunately, she has 2 tenants that are not paying rent, and she called crying to Kathy in my office about not being able to buy her medication.
right. So it is a ripple effect, and of course, by the time this airs, I guess this airs on Inauguration Day. So already we're seeing that Biden has gotten some sort of relief package, another one looking at. So hopefully that's going to help people out. And again, I want people to understand. I don't want this to be the focus of it, but I want to finish real quick, and that is, so then you get the writ of possession. That's when the sheriff comes out, locks them out. They have a period of time where they can get some stuff out, and then.
Yes.
If I leave anything of value greater than what?
I'm not going to determine the value.
No, but I mean, is there a value threshold with the sheriff's department?
Yes, but we've gone to a policy of if there's anything in the property,
It's zero.
we wait for at least 7 business days before we take any action.
Right. And then there's also, you have to store stuff for somebody. They don't have to do that anymore.
Okay, there's different rules under different properties. So
Right.
if you do not want to wait
Right.
the period, you do have to store that stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But-
And it's crazy. I mean, if somebody leaves, they leave, and I wish there was a way they could write you a note and say, hey, just throw it away and help out, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
If unfortunately at this point in the process, it's very difficult sometimes to find them, to have them sign a form to.
Right. So then we got to turn it. So you've got a team, they come in, they clean it, they turn it, they paint, they do whatever, replace things, and then we start all over again.
Correct.
All right. So you have 800 to 1,000 doors that you manage for people.
Yes.
Let's get to the fun stuff. How long what is your longest client, you think, that has been owner, and then your longest client that's been probably a tenant?
I don't know right now my longest, but we had one tenant who passed away a few years ago, Miss Maggie Harvey,
Right.
who moved in her mid-60s thinking that, she'll stay here for a few years.
Right.
And then go live with one of her children or grandchildren. And 40 years later, she passed away at 101 years old.
That's crazy.
And was still driving. She actually
Don't
passed.
tell my dad that.
She actually passed me one day on Silas Creek, and I mean, she passed me.
Yeah. Going too slow, man.
I know.
Yeah. She's probably calling you grandpa.
Exactly.
All right. So now let's talk more about Phillip. So you are you're a dad.
Yes,
You got 2 great kids,
absolutely.
right? One is in high school. No, she just graduated, so
They're both in college.
they're both in college, right?
They're doing the COVID online program this year.
Right, right. And their mom lives in Texas, so
Correct.
they travel back and forth some, but they're hanging,
My son is with me
right.
full time, and my daughter's in Texas.
right? And it's always interesting as a friend. We know when they're coming to town because it's
Yes.
when Brewer comes to town, it's like I ain't doing nothing this week. So so,
February 22nd.
All right, so don't call them. Leave you alone. All right, so you're president of the Winston-Salem Regional Association of Realtors. 2,500 people have elected you to.
2,700 now,
See,
John.
there you go. Yeah, see, already. I was just trying plus. 2,700 plus probably,
Yep.
had elected you to serve as the president. You represent realtors from the Wilkes County line at Watauga,
Yep.
all the way down to the Davidson County line, and down near whatever is below Lexington. I mean, so we go all the way from Lexington to Wilkesboro.
Yeah.
Probably North Wilkesboro's higher north, but and everything in between. And what's that like?
It's interesting. It's we are currently having our Vision Quest meetings,
Right.
and it was great to interact with some of the people from Lexington and Wilkes County yesterday, and just talk about what it is that we can do and how we can work together, and how we can help them on their education and training, and what is it to help build a board and committee, and how to get involved. And to me, my first exposure to Winston-Salem Association of Realtors was the property management division.
Right.
And one of the best things about our association is, even though we're all competitors, we are the most collaborative organization I've ever encountered.
It's crazy, and what I call us is we are a competitive board of directors. So in the sense of things is, you have no question in your mind, and I know you talked to him recently, you'll call Brad Hunter, you'll call Lou, they'll call you, et cetera. Everybody talks back and forth and says, hey, did you hear that this is coming down legal-wise? You and I have talked a couple times. There's a call to action right now to, so here's the deal. Right now, realtors are trying to help a call to action to get more money put towards rent for clients. Not trying to get the, hey, let's kick them out. We're trying to get the money to the people so that they can stay in their homes and not be affected.
Correct. And the other one that came out last week was for the property tax increase.
Right? Property tax. So
No, I'm sorry, insurance increase.
Insurance increase. So you and I both went online and spoke on behalf of the Winston-Salem Association of Realtors to Commissioner Causey. Had a forum, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever done in my life. There's a guy sitting behind a desk, and I think he had on, I really wanted to give him grief, I think he had on a Coastal Carolina a thing, and I was going to give him grief about the Chanticleers. And but he sat there, and you sat there, and it would be like, you raise your hand on Zoom, and then he goes, Mr. McPherson, and then I come out and I say my piece, and then thank you, and that was it. He didn't do anything else but sit there in it looked to be like a courtroom, and we all made our comments.
Yeah, but it was one of those things, we're there to advocate for the public. I mean, we all want affordable, quality housing, and if insurance rates are going to go up by 20%, that's just one more barrier to providing that.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I always try to talk about when I'm talking about the real estate industry. We advocate not only for our industry, but our clients. I don't know if the AMA does that as much, or the ADA, or, we should do some commercials that says 4 out of 5 realtors agree. But with regards to that, I know we talked earlier about the bad part of it, but the good part of it is you're meeting today with a lady, well, you just had a meeting today with a lady that was past president of our state, Amy Hedgecock, who spoke in a meeting at the White House.
Yes.
With former President Trump at this time, or close to it, and she was advocating for property management from North Carolina, and you're meeting with her this morning talking about more issues, because you're realizing that, as we go through these issues, there's of course that the cancer culture that we're having to deal with in all of our profession of in our lives of, if someone doesn't see the same way as you, you're wrong, you can't come to an agreement. And then you're also, we're having to deal with the fact that that's one aspect for you as president of the association, that you have members that are like, well, this is what we should do, this is what we should do. And then the other is that you have divisions. Not only property management, but commercial, you also have home inspectors and appraisers and things like this. And the property management division's going, hey, what's going on? Well, show me some attention and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was one of the things we were discussing yesterday with Vision Quest, is remembering what hat you're wearing, and having to take off my Phillip Johnson broker hat, my Phillip Johnson owner of my company hat, and
Owner of rental property hat.
correct,
Yeah.
and then put on the association hat, and who am I advocating for? It's not necessarily what's best for me personally. I need to look at the broader organization, and that's who I'm representing.
It gave me more pleasure to just stick my head into a Zoom meeting and say, on behalf of the board of directors, I'd just like to thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And I think that means a lot. We are a complete volunteer organization
Absolutely.
that are lucky enough to have a staff that works for this organization.
And a hell of a staff.
The best. I'll argue that with anybody. And and they are on it. During COVID times, being at home, they got like, what, 20 or 30 designations in their spare, just, hey, I don't have anything to do, so I'm gonna get a designation.
Well, I think they had plenty to do,
Yeah,
but I
no.
think they still managed to go through, and I think all of our staff is C2EX certified now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a commitment to excellence. It's a realtor certification. They've talked about doing it as a, an administrative or like an association executive type tier to it, but it seems like the staffs are all doing it as realtors and understanding, and so, we'll see.
Which I think that's why they're so effective in what they do, is they understand more of the business than just what's in my silo.
Absolutely. And so I think, truly with you, you are such a caring person. Where you and I banter best are when making, decisions. Last year you as President-elect, and this year me as the old guy, is I will jump out and you'll pull me back, or you'll be
John, you
too
have,
thinking, and I'll say, no, Philip, come on, what about this, or whatever.
John, you have a great vision. I just want to make sure we can get you there.
Right, and you sometimes are just so rules, or you're so black and white, and I just throw a little gray here every once in a while. And it's such a cool thing because we both have so much fun in what we do, and the volunteerism is just amazing in our association.
Oh, absolutely.
I got a link that I'm going to share with you. I got it yesterday, and I'd like to ask you, and I know you will. There is a website that has been created for realtors to log their volunteer hours in the community.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you that.
Sure.
Maybe one of your things, we send it out or we push it.
I think that would be amazing. As my leadership class, we were part of the founding Realtors Give Back Day.
Right, I know.
So I think that would be a great way to track just how much we do for the community.
Yeah, it's amazing when you see how much we actually do for the community.
Absolutely.
And it's that Good Neighbors website, but it's something that, gosh, when you look at the map of the people reporting, it's kind of sad. I mean, I only saw like 10 dots on it. So all of a sudden, Winston-Salem shows up on there. It'd be really cool to see. So I'll send you that. It's as long as Stabler didn't cancel that window when he was working on the website earlier. But I have this, and I wanted to get that to you because I think that's just a neat focus. Because, we talked about this last year of we really want to enrich and engage our members and educate them. And I know that you have similar things that you're going to work on this year because until we can all get together, the value of our association has to be stressed. And I know that's big to you. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of those things that I get more from this association than I could ever give back. The mentorship from different people. Yes, my family was in this industry, but having people with different perspectives to talk to. I'm going to mention just two names. Lou Baldwin, Brad Hunter have been instrumental in my success in this industry. Ted Kelly is, I can't say enough.
Yeah. No, let's just do this for Ted. Yeah.
It's just one of those things that those relationships that I built, I will never be able to pay enough in dues to cover what I've benefited from them.
It's amazing, you and I had the opportunity, we went on a trip together, and we have been on a couple trips, but we went on a trip, had a great time, so we invited Ted to go with us. So we're getting in the car, we're going to Bourbon Country, and Ted gets in the car, and folks, we leave Winston-Salem. I think we're on like 74. We might even be getting close to...
We may have still been on 52.
Yeah, and he looks at me and he says, so this is what you're going to do, and Philip, you're doing this. And then 7 hours in the car, he had a plan for both of us talking about what we were going to do. And, I called you up because I wanted to see if you were going to run for president. You said, John, my son is last year of school. There's no way. I said, well, I'm going to run. You fine. And then you ran the year after it. And it's just been a lot of fun. And
it's been great.
Yeah, but you are correct. I always call Lou the ladder rung because he always reaches down and pulls you up.
Absolutely.
I owe him a phone call today because I'm doing something next week, and the last time I did it, he goes, John, have you thought about this approach? What about this approach? Make sure you do this approach. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And I go, okay. But I know I have to do it, even though sometimes it's like, why are we doing that? It's the pomp and circumstance of it, or it's the this or this or this, and it makes me better.
Well, it makes us all better.
And that's why I call you with questions all the time. And how to get people to understand this is what you're going to be rental wise, and this is why you don't want that house or this house, and you're always such a wealth of information.
Thank you.
And I appreciate
And I appreciate you in the same. I do not want to list houses for sale. It's funny, I'm president of the association. I don't think I've done even 10 transactions.
As a listing agent.
As an agent. I mean, buyer or seller side. It's just not what I do. Now, I do 800 transactions a month in property management, but I have no interest in listing a house for sale.
And what's crazy about it is, we talked about, so, I mean, you have a staff of, hold on, 2, 5?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And Philip occasionally if you need him?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's PJ3, by the way. Eagle Scout PJ3.
Thank you.
So you got a staff of 5. You have 2 ladies that answer the phone and definitely hand the fire extinguisher in the smaller fires. Then you've got your vice president, Kathy, and
Correct.
then Daniel, who's pretty much over turns and maintenance and making sure.
Inspections and things like that.
Yeah. So you have to understand that, folks. Someone has you send someone out each year to inspect each property on the owner's behalf.
Yep.
You have to answer those calls. You obviously have a 24-hour number in case of emergencies. Sure. You've got negotiating with vendors for the best rates for your clients.
Absolutely.
Pipe break.
We still want reputable people. You can always get a guy to do a job for less, but we want quality vendors.
Well,
that
all your people have to be insured. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, well, I got this guy, Phillip John. I'm not going to use him. I don't care. It's got to be. And so that's awesome that but you're negotiating those. I mean, so if I've got a plumber that's $100, you may have a $50 or 75 or whatever that is. I mean, because you send them so much business.
Correct.
And that's saving your clients money.
Absolutely.
Because we all know that a battery and a smoke detector is going to go dead at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I realize that's not what an emergency call is, but pipes don't break between 9 and 5.
No.
Yeah, and so you guys handle that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk more about some of the things you guys do at T.E. Johnson & Sons, and we'll be right back. Let's show the website, tejrentals.com. That's tejrentals.com. We'll show you a screenshot of the website, and we'll be right back with more with Phillip Johnson here on Camel City Chat. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm John McPherson. I'm here with Phillip Johnson, and we're finishing up the third segment here, and starting the third segment to finish up. But Phillip, one of the things that you get called for is the comments from the paper.
Yeah.
So I know you recently got a call on this, so I feel so excited. I probably shouldn't tell that, so people just think you know it right off the top of your head. But so where is the real estate industry right now?
Well, real estate industry is continuing to grow. Right. We have more agents and more brokers involved than ever before. There are actually more transactions going through now than there were in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Inventory is actually up. Unfortunately, the number of people wanting to move to Winston-Salem is up significantly.
Yeah, we don't have enough inventory for what we're getting on demand.
Correct. Yeah. But the number of transactions closed for November and December was up between 15 to 20%.
Over year to date?
Every year to date.
That's awesome.
And unfortunately, that also means the pricing was up about 15 to 20%.
We're definitely in a seller's market. Of course, seller's market would mean that the seller dictates more of the terms because of pricing and things. That sweet spot's 250 and below.
Yep.
Where I would, since this is your expertise, we talked about the number of doors you've had. We've talked a little bit about your evictions, which, I would think they would be so much higher than they are. And you're like, no, John, we really just have a couple people each month that aren't paying.
We actually have had less evictions in 2020 than we did in 2019.
And that's crazy.
Well, again, it's all about, and I know most of the firms have been doing this, trying to get people to the resources where they can get assistance.
Right. And so then with residential, and I'll ask, let's go ahead and ask the one that you and I don't know anything about. I'm scared about commercial.
I'm concerned about people in commercial,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's about mixed-use space
Right.
and then finding how that can be retasked. So do we take an old warehouse and just Amazon take it over and use it for delivery?
Or do we go to what do you call it, an incubator and go to smaller offices and do something like that? For the individual, right now the commercial industry is probably good because, you know, if I wanted to roll out a Camel City Chat storefront, I'd probably get a pretty good deal on it.
I'm sure you could.
But you know, that's the bigger concern for me is where is our commercial industry going to go when you see cities like New York, holy cow. And my brother's in California, and I mean, he doesn't even go outside.
Right. Well, again, Winston-Salem is still price competitive, and so you still see that influx of people coming to the area. And you still see people like the charcuterie trick opening up a new spot where somebody else was shutting down.
Right.
So there's still development coming here.
Yeah, and I tell you, I heard something about that we're going to lose like a third to half of our restaurants. I sure hope that doesn't happen. I mean, we've seen some of this stuff go, and please go out and support those local businesses.
And I'm hoping with the second round PPP that was just applications are now being accepted, some of those commercial industries will be able to get that second round of funding, and those restaurants and mom and pops will be able to weather the storm.
Mm-hmm. And you know, then we go to your expertise, and that's property management. Where are we at with? Is it the same as the residential market in that you have more people that want to rent than you have properties right now? Is it balanced? Is it what's going on?
It's just like residential. It's a function of price point.
Right.
So under a certain price point, you have more people looking than you probably have units available, and then your higher end homes are probably a little bit longer time on market. I think I saw that the average for sales for under 200,000, I believe, was 28 days, and over 300 was 60 days.
Right.
So there's that absorption point that you just have to as a function of price.
Or certain neighborhoods below what people think they should be. 2 hours. But it is interesting to me. I mean, you put you put them up on your website, you put them out on the flyers or whatever, and you got people, they show up at the office. How do we get the key now? Do we?
Most companies have switched to
lockboxes
or alternative services.
Right.
Most people are, because of COVID, are not wanting 100 people coming in and out of their office a week.
Yeah. That lockbox on the front of your building is great. I mean, it's just everybody can come by, drop stuff off, and then you're good. And your location where you are now is awesome. Basically, you come up, was it Summit Street? Turn left on 5th, and you're right there immediately on the left.
Yep.
Great location, very convenient, 2 parking lots. And I was real pleased when you moved over there. And actually, you're in the thick of a lot of your rental property right there, too.
Yeah, West End and Ardmore, downtown are obviously 3 of our more popular areas. And honestly, Washington Park is continuing to develop and explode.
Yep. So that was I think that was almost my last property I sold. I think I had Ardless was that one last property that I sold, but it definitely why. Okay, here it is. Why should people buy investment property? That's a great question that I finally just pulled out of the air because we've been talking about so many other things.
Well, as I said, there was the property my dad had, and even if he had to pay a little bit out of pocket, the tenant was paying down all the repairs, all the maintenance, the interest, and the principal on the home. So for the cost of his HOA fees, he owned a townhouse.
Right.
That's how you can build wealth. We have a tenant that we rented to, well, I didn't, but we rented to them, somebody in my company did back in the 60s.
Right.
And they started off struggling, went to college, got their degree. Somebody in our association sold them a house.
Right.
5 years later, they moved out. They had that house for 10 years. And then in the late 80s, they were doing even better, bought another house and turned that first home that they bought into an investment property. So now they have developed and have that home that it's now generating revenue for them.
I had a kid come in, buy a house up in Rural Hall. He paid cash for it. No, he financed it.
Mm-hmm.
Borrowed the money from his mother to pay it off cash. Took that cash. He is now developing properties that, Eisenhower are buying from him.
Sure.
He's got he flipped homes in Ardmore, all with that initial like $60,000 or $70,000. He's turned it into, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how, you find a niche and you do it.
Well, it's like anything in life, find what you're good at and pursue it.
And you can give that advice to people, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want to buy a rental house, talk to Phillip. We'll get you together, and you can give him advice on, hey, this may not be the place to start. I'm a little more conservative. Of course, we have a couple clients, and one's as conservative as me, and the other one's like, John, I'm listening to Phillip on this. You're going to help me out on this, and then you're going to help me this, and this. But I mean, it's a good team, and it works. And I don't even know how many properties they have now. We're getting closer to 20, aren't we?
Probably right at 20 doors.
Yeah, right at 20 doors. Yeah, but about a few less properties because one's 4 and then another one's a couple.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me how it just turns like that. And you give great advice.
Well, that's what I'm here for, is to, just like you in sales, we're here to know and understand the market and understand where sometimes that path of development is, where opportunities are, and try to help people find those.
So I'm going to ask you a really hard question. What's your favorite bourbon?
Pappy Van Winkle, 15 years.
15? Yeah,
my favorite. What do I think that you can actually go in and buy off the shelf that's great? Yeah. Michter's Rye.
Michter's Rye. I like the dark rye from, you tell me who it is because I can't remember who the company is. But in the paper that I always talk about.
Basil Hayden.
Thank you. Yeah, see. So Basil Hayden Dark Rye is one of my favorites. I like the Whistle Pig when it's been aged in the
cask.
The casks, yeah. What's the one that you've been talking about that you guys have been talking about that Ted was looking for a couple bottles of? I didn't know which one that was.
I don't remember. I'm
okay, because it wasn't down in Fayetteville. It was like somewhere. You were talking about something that was good.
Don't remember.
Right. So, but if you walk into a place and they don't have Pappy, what do you think you're going to get?
As I said, Michter's Rye is great bourbon.
You know me. I'm going to go with Bottled and Bond.
Bottled and Bond.
Yeah. So.
Henry McKenna.
Yep, Henry McKenna. Folks, you're welcome to send them to my home. And then
you might have a gift as stepping down as president.
We'll see. Tell me where you want to see our city go, because you like me have been. I moved to Winston in '77. So, and I got you by a couple years.
Yeah.
So when you look at where we are and what's going on, we got a great mayor that's really trying to push things. We've redone this. It looks like we're going to keep the ball team, which was, he and I had talked about that earlier. I mean, that's big stuff.
Yeah.
And I know people probably going, oh, wait. No, guys, that's big stuff. That brings things to our city, and it's worth every penny.
Yeah, and I mean, there's things that, just because I don't take advantage of something doesn't mean that it's not beneficial for the city.
Right.
Public transportation and infrastructure are things that aren't always sexy or appealing, but they're critical.
Right.
And I want to continue to see our city innovate, develop, and grow.
Right.
The innovation corridor, 500 West 4th Street. Those are wonderful incubators and developers for our community. And I want to see the development of the South Slope continue to grow. Right. I think that's how we continue to develop. Now, I've seen what Durham's done with their bond initiative,
right.
Affordable housing. I would love to see us take on something similar.
We've got to tackle affordable housing.
It is a huge hurdle, but how do you do that in a way where you're not asking somebody to say, hey, I want you to build homes and lose money on them?
Yeah, that sounds like that could be a great PAG for you, but we've got to get the decision makers on that group for you. It can't just be realtors and builders talking about it. We've got to get people that can help change regulations, or I come in and maybe I don't have to have a bike rack out front if I'm doing a commercial thing, because that's a cost or something. I mean, whatever these things are.
Whatever they are, and again, I think it's one of those things that we can look at strategically, and I'm not saying I have the answer to it.
No, I don't know if anyone has the answer. I think you've got the group though that can get you the answer.
Correct, and I think that's what we need to explore. And so that's one of the things I want to look at. I'm here to represent our association, not property management, not commercial, but in general, everybody. And how can we help that move forward for our city and our community?
Mm-hmm. So Winston-Salem, I mean, there's there's nothing cooler than going and grabbing a pie from La Cugina, walking over to Bailey Park, chilling out, watching people run around, play, hearing a band.
I'm ready for Gears and Guitars to come back and
Right.
have the bike races and bands out there. Those are great events.
Yeah. Who'd we go see that band? I don't even remember who it was. You and I sat outside and watched the band that one night.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Little Dipper or whatever there. Stabler, before this all started, showed me Cranky's now has a Nashville hot biscuit or something that he's like trying to talk me into driving
It's
by there on the way
wonderful.
home. You've had it?
Oh yeah. I've walked over there for breakfast on Saturday.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do it. All right. So, in our last few minutes here,
Sure.
as we talk, first of all, people can get in touch with you. Go to TE Johnson.
TEJrentals.com.
T.E. Johnson's website, TEJrentals.com. Call the main line, 336.
722-6133.
Stabler will put that at the bottom of the screen there, so it looks like the real professional. And then
Good, because I don't know how to do that.
yeah, I don't either. Hire a kid. And then what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh God. Honestly, given what's going on the last couple of years, I probably don't want to be remembered. Yeah. Things that stick out in your mind after 2020 are not always
The
positive.
flag
So,
on Facebook survived COVID-19.
Yeah, just that's what I want to get done. Is I just want to, administer and be here and be the resource we can, and continue to move things forward. But if you stand out in a memory right now, that's typically not the most positive associations.
Right. But I think that you'll be remembered as a very good friend,
Absolutely.
a father, and I know that you're going to be a great president of our association, and so I appreciate you being here with me today. Before we go, do you remember when you were in your teens, 20s and stuff, and you started to look around, try and find stuff to do? You went to Smitty's Notes. Do you remember using them?
Absolutely.
All right. Jeff sponsors Camel City Chat, so check out Smitty's Notes, and we want to make sure that you guys go there and check him out. He'll put this up in his Smitty's Notes and say to
Great.
listen to Phillip talk. And but I really appreciate it. I think that you shared a lot of information that that people don't understand behind the scenes. That it's not just buy a property and make money, there's a whole step to it. And I recommend anyone that's buying a rental property get a property manager. Of course, TEJrentals.com is where you want to check it out. And thanks for all you do.
Absolutely, and thank you, John.
Appreciate you.
Honestly, I would not be in this seat if it wasn't for your mentorship and leadership.
Oh, come on now. Well, I know that inauguration that was yesterday is going to go well in the future because we're recording this on the Friday before.
Exactly.
So I'm looking forward to spending some time with you and your family. And everybody, have a wonderful week. Thanks for joining us on Camel City Chat. We will be back next week with more Camel City Chat, and I think that we're going to have another awesome guest. If it's who it is, I'll tell you after this. You guys are going to be excited. All right,
Excited.
talk to you next week.